how does being a Southerner affect and impact Jackson's presidency?
So Jackson, as a Southerner, is someone who, as president, embraces many of the ideals that elite white Southern men in particular wanted to achieve. So, for example, as president, he is very much focused on the removal of Native Americans. This is something that he had done throughout his entire career, beginning before his military career during the War of 1812. Certainly during the War of 1812, he spends most of his time fighting Native Americans, not fighting the British, even though that is what makes him a national hero, is the Battle of New Orleans on January 8th of 1815. But Jackson spends most of his time actually fighting Native Americans. After the War of 1812, he spends the next few years fighting Native Americans, removing them from land, etc. So when Jackson becomes president, he already has this pattern as an adult of removing Native Americans, pushing them off of land, either by force or by persuasion or by both. And as president, by focusing on removing Native Americans, he is doing what he's always done. He's opening up land for white settlement. And that ties into a second aspect of Jackson as a Southerner, as president, is that he's a defender of slavery. Again, this ties into his own personal identity as an enslaver, but it also serves the interest of the region he's part of. So there are several examples I could point to, but one of the best examples is in 1835. There are a number of attacks on African Americans that take place by people who oppose abolitionism, who wanted to strengthen and continue to perpetuate the institution of slavery. So Jackson, as president, reinforces those attacks, and he does this by telling his Attorney General, Amos Kendall, who had written to Jackson telling him that abolitionists are sending all this inflammatory material into the Southern post offices. We need to make sure that that this is stopped, because enslaved people are going to get word of this. They're going to either read this material or have it read to them, and then they're going to rise up in rebellion. And Jackson supports Kendall in his actions to restrict the mailings of these abolitionist materials. So as president, in those two instances, to me, those are the two prime examples of how Jackson allows his Southern identity, his identity as an enslaver, as a Southern planter, to affect his policies as president.